Harris Andrews is like, if you had a son, you'd like him, right? I would like him if I had a son.
This will get Brisbane fans up and about when Bruce strikes, and strikes early.
Perfect kick.
Bones.
Morris. Here's Archie and runs into an open goal for his second of the afternoon. Can he flush it from outside 50? The lefty's coming back, and that is a perfect strike for 250 in his career. Flicks the way of Logan Morris. Doesn't need too much space, this kid, and he delivers.
Clean hands. They have been the dominant team, and one more here out of the ruck.
There he is.
How about that? He's big and getting bigger.
Look at him.
OMG, what a goal.
It'll be a dirty dozen for Port Adelaide fans because Hipwood is going to go back and line up for his fifth. Bailey McCluggage assesses it. The cream is rising to the top, and it is party central for these Brisbane Lions.
And it's taken till round 15, but as far as statements go, they don't get much bigger than that for the Brisbane Lions. A 79-point trouncing.
The Brisbane Lions fan cast, and it was just a couple of weeks ago here on this very show, we pinpointed this game against Port Adelaide as the one. Bulldogs, yes, huge win. St Kilda, yeah, a game we should have won, did win, but it was the away trip down to Adelaide against Port Adelaide where we said, you know what, this will really show us where the Brisbane Lions are and whether we are indeed, in fact, making a comeback for the 8. And to go down to Adelaide Oval and absolutely dominate Port Adelaide was very, very enjoyable. I've already flagged this with you and the people in the Brisbane Lions Fancast Discord that I'm going to be a little bit classless and disrespectful today because I detest Port Adelaide. And to go down there, pull their pants down, to see Ken despondent on the bench after he's been carrying on dancing along the sidelines. Jason Horne-Francis gives me the shits. And to know that they had a huge club function that night and we were the elephant in the room to put a sour taste in everyone's mouth and sort of taint that club event for them, just makes me happy. I could eat that breakfast, lunch, dinner every single day. Oh boy, I enjoyed that. I really did enjoy that. And let's do it again. More of that, please. Patrick, did you enjoy it as much as I did?
I probably not as much as you did by the sound of it. Yeah, it's funny, we were talking last week and I'm like, I went to the 04 grand final.
Yeah.
You didn't, and I have probably much more right to be this level of vitriolic, but I was just like, hell yeah, we won, and we ruined their whole sort of shtick for the evening, which was good. So probably like less vitriolic, but I'm more than happy to piggyback.
And, you know, I did put this out on Twitter, and it did gain a fair bit of traction, actually, that the media this week is obviously going to focus on Port Adelaide. The narrative is going to be about them and Ken Hinkley and his coaching future and how bad they were. But, I mean, what's going to get lost in all of this is how good we were. You know, the midfield stepped right up. Our back six, amazing for Harris's 200th. Our key forwards, they are putting together some sort of purple patch here. Cam Rayner's put together 3 really good weeks of footy. Zach Bailey found a little bit of form on the weekend. People that have been quiet, like Jasper Fletcher and Cal Archie, all had good games. Nobody had a bad game, in my reckoning. I mean, Shadow Brain was the one that didn't affect it much, but even he, whatever. Even Connor McKenna, that was his best game since coming back by a long way. Yeah,
I got to admit, when I heard Willie Rioli was missing, I was like, oh man, that's going to make Connor McKenna's life so much easier.
Oh yeah.
And how? Poor Shadow Brain, he loves the entry into a game and getting like immediately smashed. Yes. Immediately, like he got, I mean, Dammit Burton called it well. He's like, oh, that's an avalanche if it's the wrestling. It's like, you go, Dammit, go watch that WrestleMania, mate. Off you go. He called it. So yeah, Shadow Brain, poor fella, but I know. Just keep at it, man.
Well, that was the change. When we spoke last week, we weren't across the fact that Noah had actually done his shoulder in the 2, so we did forecast no changes, but there was obviously the one. Shadow came in as the sub, so I guess it was almost a like for like. Noah was the sub anyway the last couple of weeks, so Shadow comes straight back into the mix. The only sort of real change this week was Kai Lohman got subbed out with the corky there, so fingers crossed he will pull up all right after that, because we got a game on Friday night against the D's. But let's just revel in this a little bit. Let's bloody Bruce revel in this a little bit, because he kicked 2 goals as well. Hipwood another 5, Danaher 3. Even Charlie got amongst the action a little bit. Probably could have got in a little bit more with a cheap goal to kick things off with a free kick that I still am not really sure what it was for. I think it was a Horn Francis on Berry at sort of the top of the 50. But 12 goals in a row between quarters 2 and 3. Just so much fun to watch. So much fun to watch. The Port fans leaving before three-quarter time, booing Ken Hinkley. Oh, there was just so much to enjoy.
There was a bit of shades of, I think it was a game back in maybe like 2021, 2019 maybe. Back into 2019 where they went after Lockie.
Yep.
The kind of famous, like, we'll go after Lockie.
Yeah, we're going to terrorise
This is almost like it's more like an evolution of that game where we were like, we're obviously a bit older and hardier and able to actually like properly mutilate them.
Yep.
So I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed that game, but this one was pretty ridiculous. It was like champagne football. You were just sitting there watching it, washing over, enjoying it, watching that Guernsey that I was like, why do I recognize that Guernsey? Yeah. And then it took me till about three-quarter time to be like, yeah, right. That makes perfect sense. Also, Ollie Wines is playing. Also, Dusty Burn-Jones is playing. What the hell is going on here? Yeah. I didn't recognize any of these morons. Wow, I didn't realize Georgiades had a hamburger face. Cool. Like, that's what's going through my brain watching this game.
Even the commentator was like, I just had to check if Dusty Burn-Jones was playing because I hadn't seen it. And that was in like quarter 2 or 3.
Yeah, I must have. I mean, it was the commentary team was kind of almost worth blocking out, but so I must have blocked that out. But all good in the end.
Well,
yeah.
Mark Rashudo was enjoying every second of it, of course, because being a staunch Adelaide man, he's
under bags of pressure at the moment himself. So it's
so like, he was enjoying it on two fronts, watching the arch enemy get absolutely mauled and enjoying the heat go on them for a week instead of the Crows. So yeah, really good. And you could actually tell throughout the game, not that you were obviously listening to the comms very closely, but Anthony Hudson, you could feel it in real time between the game starting and the game ending. He was starting to really believe that the Lions are going to make a charge and a real impact in finals here with that sort of performance. So I think
Hutto's a funny one, hey? Because he's a Geelong man, and I don't know what it is, but in the last week I've noticed more pundits be more frivolous with saying who they support.
Yeah,
I don't know, because you all kind of and that's one of the things that we talk about, and I don't mind the shamelessness of Eddie Maguire just being Collingwood through and through, but when you have these Slimebergs Damien Barrett and whatever and stuff where they support teams so they don't say it. Mark Robinson supporting Essendon came out. Hutto and Geelong, not came out, but was mentioned this week. Hutto and Geelong, I think, was mentioned twice. And it's just cool. We're not hiding behind this anymore. But Hutto's always been a bit of a champion of the Lions in terms of a bit of a fan himself. He always tends to rate us quite highly. And, that, as you said, in real time, that kind of belief coming back was almost symbolic in a way, I think. Yeah,
and I must admit, obviously the trust in this group has wavered, obviously, in the first half of the season. But, over the last 6 weeks, the Hawthorn game aside, I'm really starting to place a lot more trust. They've seriously earned back trust, from the AFL community and obviously members and fans and supporters alike. So that was the game that really had me jump right back on board and go, yep, we can make finals and we can potentially pinch, it might be like 2022 where we make a prelim, we go there the hard way, and then we come up against a Sydney or a Carlton, a Collingwood and Essendon or whatever in a prelim final. I think Fox put out a little article last night of the run home and where they sort of flag everyone to finish. They had us finishing 6th, playing GWS at the Gabba in an elimination final. So still a lot more to play out, but some winnable games. 2 home games coming up. We've got 5 more games at the Gabba, another one in Queensland, and then some away games against West Coast and St Kilda in there as well that on paper are quite winnable as well. So, if we keep this form, we put on 150 points. In 2 weeks, we have put on the highest scores that 2 coaches have seen. So Ross Lyons never conceded 126 points, and Ken Hinkley's never conceded 152 points. And we just did that.
Well, we've got the highest score for a non-Adelaide team at the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah. So those issues that were plaguing our forward line, I thought, first quarter the signs were there again, and the commentators just did not miss as well. It's well, the lines should be like at least 2 or 3 goals up here.
Yeah.
The amount of inside 50s, we still left some out on the park, but, it all clicked. And it has been clicking the last few weeks. We're regularly putting on 100 points again, like we know we can. 12 goals in a row, lovely. The set shots, like Joe and Eric just don't look like missing at the moment, which is, crazy to believe. The only real pisser was Cam Rayner. As good as his game was, I mean, he had, 1 goal, 2 or 3, and that advantage play on was quite annoying. But other than that, another great game from him.
Yeah, we've seen that happen with opponents like to us in the last couple of weeks, and it's just been like, oh dude, what are you doing? Like Caleb Daniel and some other knob from whoever else we played. But I don't like that when you've got, was it Logan Morris had a free kick or something like that?
Set shot.
Like know the fact that dude's kicked a goal in every game he's played and given the opportunity to do it. I know he ended up kicking 2 anyway. Unfortunately, he's not getting my 3 votes. But I said last week, because I think he's pretty bloody stiff not to get a Rising Star nomination. Because as a key forward, what more can you ask from his game last week? And some schmuck from whoever the fuck got it. So,
that child from GWS.
Oh, yeah, it was him. His body of work probably justifies it, but they still lost.
Yeah, and...
although that said, if that was the case, Louis Taylor probably never would have got a nomination for us. So... but no, it is insane to think that we're only a win and a half out of the top 4.
It is crazy. And
now that the ladder is settled, and just to give it an indication, Sydney are just kind of carrying on doing whatever the hell they're doing. And for them to be 3 wins clear just shows if you can put a stretch of games together, you can really, they're the only team that hasn't faltered. And I know that's bleedingly obvious, but the fact that they're so far ahead shows that there's ground to be gained on these other teams. I think Carlton have hit a really good patch of form, and their turnover game has transformed. So I think they're pretty dangerous heading into September. But I still think Carlton and Sydney are gettable, and I still think our best is probably the best when it is there. And we've got a very good player to come back into a team that is going to be hard to change. So
yes, very much so. Very much so. And one of the questions I put out on socials throughout the week was general thoughts of, does Ashcroft come straight back into the seniors, or do you play him for a week, maybe even 2 in the VFL, just for A, match fitness, B, just warm him into basic physical, elite physical contact. And the midfield mix is going so well at the moment. You don't want to disrupt what Jared Berry's doing. You don't want to disrupt what Hugh's doing. Neil and Dunkley are playing great games as well. It's to jam someone in there at the moment, while it's a really, really, really good problem to have, you don't want to upset the apple cart too much, especially when we're playing so well at the moment. So, I mean, if it's anything worth noting, sorry, excuse me, I feel like Will Ashcroft's got the football brain to know how to not do that. Yeah.
If it was a player that was super, one-paced and you could do one thing, you could do it really well, you'd be a little bit worried about whether they'd come in and not be able to adapt. But I think that Ashcroft has got the brain to be able to sit there and go, okay, I've watched us play over the last period and I know how to help or how to kind of complement what's going on. So I think that's a bit of a boon, his brain. So,
well, I hope so. And I hope he's not sitting there watching from the sidelines for the last year going, can't wait to get in there, can't wait to get in there, can't wait to get there, do my thing. So it'll remain to be seen when the teams come out on Thursday. I put it forward that I wouldn't mind seeing him play a game in the 2s, just a game at least, just to see, especially while we're going so well. There was a real mix of reactions, actually. It was genuine 50-50 of people wanting him in the 2s, and a lot of people like, nah, just get him straight back in. So it was really interesting to get a gauge on what people thought on that respect. So I'm looking forward either way to finding out what's going to happen. But as you said, whoever misses out is going to be very, very unlucky. Very unlucky. And they will probably go to the sub. It's going to be a Bruce or a Jasper or an Archie or someone in that area, like a mostly outside half forward play, maybe even Zach Bailey, that's going to be the sub.
Yeah, I think we probably nailed it last week. I think it'll be between Cal and Bruce, but I could be wrong. So I didn't realise it was Harris's 200th game. That is a lot of games.
It's come around quick, hasn't it? And he's only 27, so you'd imagine, I mean, fingers crossed, knocking on wood, he should lock away 300 easily for our club.
Yeah, because I think I mean, looking back at his career, he really came in and never left. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but he wasn't a player that had a sort of, played a couple games, went back, he came in and played straight through.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've watched that, like, kind of stupidity that was the All-Australian chit chat on Fox.
I haven't watched it. I also can't seem to find it easily on KO. So,
yeah, it's interesting in the sense that I found it interesting because they just named fucking all the players that they were looking at.
Yeah.
It's from a few rounds ago, but the fact that they they talked about Harris. They had him as like a watch, but not as they had Pierce and Wiedering and all these other guys. It's like, man, Harris does not get nearly enough credit. And like Fagan said that in his press conference, like he's a 2-time All-Australian or a 1-time All-Australian?
He's 2-time, yeah.
He should be more than that because he's like consistently rated. I don't know what it is with fullbacks and Brisbane because Mal Michael was never an All-Australian. But it's almost like the conundrum with that is Harris Andrews' body of work he's been the best fullback for 5 years over that period of time, but he's also been the best every year anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like someone's played better for a time. So I don't know. The other funny thing with that, just stepping aside, is that they were like all frothing over Max Gawn. And it's like, are you out of your mind? Grundy has clearly been the best ruckman this year. Like, clearly.
Yeah.
And there's got to be an element of like, particularly if it's a ruck battle for an All-Australian, that you go, these are players that play on each other in a game. If there's like a tiebreaker, I'd be using my brain to go, well, when they played and went head-to-head, who won?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. Smack them too.
I mean, there's no way that Max Gawn has had a better season than Grundy. And Grundy is like completely transformed Sydney. It's like Sydney have the best midfield now. What's different? Oh, Grundy. Go figure. They forgot a ruckman. So anyway, let's move on. Harris Andrews, 200 games. What a legend for the Chief.
Came in as a forward, and I do remember the first game where he played down back. We moved him down back out of necessity. I think it was down at Geelong. And I remember he took a few intercept marks in that game and really, really made an impression, spoiled, did all the right things. And I remember, leaving that game, we obviously got bounced. But I remember going, ooh, I like the look of Harris today down back. I wonder if that's something we'll continue. And obviously it has. And then there was that one pre-season, I can't remember when it was, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4. And they're like, oh, we're playing Harris up forward just to switch things up. You're like, what the hell are you doing? You got one of the best fullbacks in the competition. You're flirting with him playing forward. Like, I know that you want versatility and you might want to change things up, but don't be stupid.
It was never going to happen. And I think, it was never going to happen. One of the things that I like about Harris Andrews is if you look in YouTube, Harris Andrews mic'd up, you will see Harris Andrews running around with a microphone on the field from 7 years ago.
Oh, love that.
Fox Footy seem to think they've invented that in the last 18 months, but 7 years ago, I think he ends up going into the ruck because maybe Matty Leuenberger goes down with an injury or something like that. Steph Martin might. So he ends up rucking. He's also about 12 years old. The audio's not great, but still, it's a good little listen. And it kind of shows, I think when I watched that, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's got captain material all over him. So, and to me, he is kind of the de facto captain. I know that they're co's, but the proof of the captain is in the captaining. And
in the
that
captain
is what
pudding.
he does.
Yeah, like 100%. One of my favourites, and I'm sure one of most members and supporters' favourites as well. Harris, just a genuinely good bloke, as Fags pointed out in his post-match as well. Just a really good person. Couldn't be happier that he's come, and a Queensland boy too. So even though he's come out over the week as he was a huge Essendon fan growing up, which is a bit disappointing, but so glad that he's our captain, and here's to another 100. And as I said, he'll hit the 300, no dramas.
Why was he an Essendon fan?
I mean,
like, when was he born?
What is he now? 27, so yeah, late 90s.
What an awful time to be an Essendon fan. Like, literally the worst time.
Yeah, he would have had a moment of joy when he was 3, and then not much after that.
I can't remember anything, like, until I think my first legitimate memory I have is about 7. Clearly I've got addled brains and CTE coming out my eyeballs, so that might be cause for concern. But no, okay, fair enough, Harris.
One thing I did actually, I was having a scroll through the AFL app yesterday, and I was looking at the stat leaders and all sorts of stuff. And in marks, we have got 3 of the top 6. AFL number 3 is Harris. Number 6 is Joe for marks. But do you want to have a guess at who we've got as AFL number 2 for total marks?
Number 2, geez. Is this totals or is this average?
Totals.
Is it like Dunkley?
No, it's Dane Zorko.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty funny.
And I think if you go down the list...
Can you see why when you read the stat line for Darragh Joyce last week, I said Dane Zorko? Because it was Dane Zorko's stats. It was high marks. I know that was me just being a pisshead, but yeah, I mean, let's not talk about that. Don't draw attention to it, dude.
Froggy Lester's also in like the top 15 as well, if you scroll down that list a little bit. But I thought that was surprising. Zorko's also high in meters gained and, you know, fantasy points and all that sort of garbage as well. So, yeah, just a little bit of an aside there. Let's get back to the game. Was there any one moment or moments that you enjoyed particularly? For me, it was that Q2 and Q3, that just 12-goal stretch across those. And especially in quarter 3 where they go into the halftime break and you thought, okay, they kicked the first 2 goals of the game. They kicked the first 2 goals of the second quarter before we just answered back with 4 or 5 of our own. I thought, okay, after the halftime break, they're going to get absolutely smacked here by Ken in the rooms. They're going to come out firing. But no, we just put the foot down a little bit more. And quarter 3 was basically perfect. It lived in our half. But for me, that Hugh McCluggage goal in the last quarter, the one that got Mark Rasciuto really excited because you could just see the skill level involved. That was probably the moment for me. That was an absolute cracker.
It's hard to pick. That was obviously a good one because you're sort of like, there's no right to go for that there, but he did, and how. I messaged you during the game. The one, so he broke from stoppage on the centre wing, and Fletcher kind of assessed the situation, played like a kind of cutout inside ball to Logan Morris, and his field kick. So the field kick there was amazing. And then Logan Morris to just drop it into space for Cal Archie to run onto was also, and I was just like, those 2 field kicks are amazing. Yeah.
And that's been pointed out on like the after game analysis and on First Crack as well. I think the round so far, that AFL show that comes out at like midnight on Saturday, and then First Crack, that passage of play, and it obviously pointed to just whatever the hell.
Finlayson not running or whatever.
Finlayson not chasing, and then Radaglia not knowing where the hell to go, and Zerk Thatcher just sort of wandering around aimlessly going, well, I need to affect the contest, but I'm also not going to do that. I'm just going to float into this space in the middle that left Logan Morris open, and then the kick over the top. It was just, yeah. And that Morris kick
the ratchet defending aside, the kicks were...
Yeah.
Like unplayable, but there are other ones. Like Hip was weird. Left to right set shot was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Logan Morris's pickup, and like he's just sharpshooter. Like his ground ball pickup and slot was awesome. Yeah, basically all the goals. Like bring that video back. Brisbane Lions YouTube, just all the goals.
Yeah. It'd be a fun little watch as well. A long watch too, which is great. Yeah, like I said, Charlie got involved. Cam Rayner, some like big contested marks. Pissed away a couple of opportunities. That little deft touch he gave to Archie for his goal as well. It was all good. I think he was involved in a huge amount of score involvements and direct goal assists as well for Cam Rayner. And just that contested mark he took in front of Radaglia. He's crashing packs. He has done the last couple of weeks as well. So, and Bailey actually stood out when he was attending centre bounces. That was probably when I thought he played his best footy.
Yeah, he got kind of thrown in there in the last quarter, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he got about 3 clearances in a row, and it was like he was coming off almost like the back as a sweeper.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool. One thing I'll point out, Hitwood, if he'd had 8 more tackles, he would have had the famed double.
Cool.
But he just needed 8 more tackles, and I don't think that they had the ball enough for him to warrant that. So can we convert 5 goals into 8 tackles with like some sort of stat function box? Sure, why not? Let's do it.
I mean, we can do that as well, but
yeah.
I mean, what a game from Eric again. We said last week after his huge game against the Dogs where he kicked 6, like, we can't expect that. We can't expect that every week. Maybe we can.
every other week.
Every other week, no. I mean, 13, he's kicked 11 goals in the first half of the season. In the last 3 games, he's kicked 13 goals. So whatever happened to him during that suspension in the bye week was great. You know, and maybe it was the external noise of people going, drop people each and every week. Those people have been silent, as have the Sack Fagan crowd, which is bloody nice for a change as well. Like I said, no one played a bad game. Wilmot again, he's putting together one of the great seasons. Really, 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 really good. Really good.
You can't argue with anything, can you?
No.
And if it wasn't Will Ashcroft coming back, you're not changing the team. And I think we're both not sure whether we will. Like, are we going to sit in that? I mean, you look at the promotional stuff of, like, you know, it's almost like some sort of, I mean, it's like Will Ashcroft's coming back because they're like, yeah, back next week against Melbourne, promo shots. And you're like, yeah, will he? Maybe.
Gut says that he will play. And maybe, because if you've had a bad enough corky, they can linger around for a little bit. So depending on how bad Kai is, maybe he's the one that drops out of the team or it becomes a sub or something like that, just to nurse him a little bit, and I guess gives us an excuse to insert Will straight back in. But it's, like I said, it's a really nice problem to have.
Yeah, it seemed like Lohmann going off was almost more like preventative.
Yeah.
They were like wanted to get that bit of pressure and, you know, the kneading of the quad dough going early. So, yeah, but I mean, what a good day.
Really was. Really
what a
was.
good day.
The Twos also had a big win against Frankston. We'll have a chat about that a little bit later as well. But let's get to the votes for hoponbrewerytours.com.au. Book yourself a half or full day tour with Hop On Brewery Tours. Support the Australian beer industry and have yourself one hell of a time out. They've managed to team up with some other people as well, so you can do like axe throwing, you can do like laser stuff as well, and they've just teamed up with a boat company as well, so you can bruise in boats if you don't mind. Check it all out.
Can you do like laser tag on boats?
Maybe.
Like on a tinny where you're both like doing like a James Bond scene or something?
All right, 3s, 2s and 1s. It's hard when we get smacked to do these votes. It's equally as hard to do them when everyone's had a great game and we have a huge win. But for me, big Oscar.
Oh, you're going first, are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, big Oscar for the 3.
Bury the lead there.
And the commentators couldn't get enough of Big O as well during the game as well. One of the great games, 3 goals, including a nice little like cheeky grubber.
Underground. Yeah.
Huge game from him. Eric Hipwood, the 2, 5 goals. Has obviously had a huge couple of weeks as well. And Josh Dunkley, just because I feel like he hasn't been getting enough plaudits and votes for the work he's been doing, but another huge game. Neil obviously misses out on votes from me this week, and I'm sure he will from you. And he's got enough votes, but it must be said he had another fantastic Lachie Neale game, 37 touches, 10 clearances. He's kicking, like Lachie Neale's kicking over the last 5-6 weeks has been so good. It's probably... It hasn't been his strongest suit, and obviously he's won 2 Brownlows, so he's a pretty handy footballer, but he's kicking, he's obviously really worked on that and has really shown the last sort of 5-6 weeks. So, but yeah, McInerney, Hipwood, Dunkley for me.
Yeah. So my caveat's Dunkley doesn't get a vote because he got turned inside out by Georgiadis in like slow motion, so out. Neil doesn't get a vote because he'd let Butters get 35 touches, so... do your job.
Sure.
So obviously, Big O the 3, Hipwood the 2, and I'm tossing it up, you know, between Revel, because I think that he had his best game.
Yeah.
And if he does come out of the team, he deserves to get at least 1 vote.
Sure.
And yeah, let's go with the Rev.
2 goals for Bruce as well. That was great. And really nice to hear that the Bruce chant has made it to Adelaide as well. Like, it's one thing at the Gabba, it was pretty good at Melbourne, but, you know, we've got a decent supporter base down in Melbourne, but to audibly hear it through the telecast in Adelaide, where, like, I don't know what the Lions fan base in Adelaide is, how big or small. I would imagine it's smaller than Melbourne, of course, but to hear that through the TV, that was great.
Yeah, I think Joe's a bit unlucky not to get a vote as well, but, you know, whatever.
There's a lot of people unlucky not to get votes in this week. Like I said, no one had a bad game. So even Kai, who didn't have a huge effect on the game, but the amount of, same as last week, just flew for balls. He took a couple of handy marks. He's got his hand in there. He's just really creating contests and just creating a bit of chaos and panic in the forward 50, and he's working up the ground a lot more as well. So before he got subbed out, although he didn't, the numbers will tell you he didn't have a great game, I still think his impact far outweighed those numbers.
Yeah, same with Logan Morris. That's why I think Logan Morris is stiff, because, since he's come into the team, it's like the forward line has clicked-ish, particularly when they've all been there. I kind of tend to look at the Hawthorn game as a bit of an outlier. The forward line's clicked. He's making players play better. He himself has hit the scoreboard every game.
And his kicking is just elite. His field kicking... Yeah. That one he hit to Archie that you were talking about, he did that off not even a step. He literally just planted the foot, and away she went.
The decision-making and stuff like that. And it's like, he's not, getting 30 touches off half-back.
Nice little drive-by for Zorko there.
That was a drive-by Sheasel.
Okay, sure.
He won't win the Rising Star because George Wardlaw is running around like an absolute maniac. But... he should get a nomination. If he doesn't get a nomination, it's kind of cooked, because then it's looking at it going, okay, cool. So I think Logan Morris has almost been more impactful in his games, maybe than Darcy. Darcy's probably been pretty good, but in flashes, the consistency hasn't been there for him. So Morris has been consistent, and he's made the team better, made players better, not necessarily just put it on. So I don't know. Make of it what you will, but I think Logan Morris is stiff to not get a Rising Star, and he probably won't get one because some weenbag probably got 30 touches in a loss playing for Gold Coast.
Well, if you're listening to this right now on, say, Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever, and the nomination has come out that Logan has actually done it, well, egg on Pat's face, but...
No, it would be egg on my face. I'd be happy. It's a win-win here.
Yeah, but obviously, as we're recording this, we've got no idea who the nominee is this week. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it is Logan, and he gets that deserved recognition that he should be getting. And, how lucky are we that, silver linings and all that sort of stuff, but, that someone like Logan Morris, who we had no idea, we saw glimpses in the preseason and the first couple of matches in the VFL, that we knew, this kid is obviously got some football ability, and it took however many knee injuries for him to get into the team, but has not looked back. And that our depth for the first time in however many years has been tested, and we've actually got players that can step right up and fill in.
I think it's a bit of a testament to the way that we've recruited in the draft, because Dev Robb aside, he's probably the one going back, and that's quite a fair way. In terms of our first draft picks impacting the team, we've got Wilmot, Ashcroft, obviously, and then Fletcher, who was also a first rounder. So, and then you've got Logan Morris and Kai Lohman, who are all our kind of first picks that are all more or less impacting the team since we've become a good team. We were talking about that weeks and weeks ago, where it's not often that you have kind of draftees that come in whilst you're in a premiership window come in and impact.
Yeah. Or
there's not a great deal of change. There's obviously going to be some drop off because you can't play Mitch Robinson and Dane Zorko forever. But it's been astute drafting, and I think credit goes to the list management and recruitment and stuff, because we're not in a situation like Port Adelaide where they're going, fuck, we need a key defender and a ruckman. Let's get anyone. And it's like, do you know who doesn't work? Anyone. And maybe that's something where I have to kind of eat my words a little bit, where maybe just anyone isn't better than the alternative. People saying Hipwood, drop it, not us, but anyone's better than him. It's like, no, because look at what happens when you have Zirk Thatcher and Sweet.
Well, you only have to go back to that Hawthorn game where Hipwood didn't play, and we threw in Brandon Ryan, and that was a car crash. Having said that, Brandon Ryan had a great game on the weekend in the two. So, but look what's happened since he's come back and how much better we look. So, as you said, that Hawthorn game is a bit of an outlier, but the forward mix in that game was a nightmare. But Logan was only a couple of games in. We had Brandon Ryan, and everyone was just crashing into each other. It was just, Anyway, no point reflecting on that. You're right. The Steve Knoll and Dom Ambrosio just don't get the plaudits that they deserve. And you look at what's happening to Adelaide, and the thing that people are pointing at is like their drafting and how bad it's gone for them. And it's like, yeah, they've had that many first round picks, and maybe you give a tick to 2 of them over the last however many years. Whereas I think just about everyone we've
got a pretty high hit rate.
Yeah,
like going back to 2016.
Yeah,
almost.
We got McCluggage, Berry, and Witherden in that draft, I think. And then the next year we got Rayner, Bailey, and Starcevic. Fucking tick.
And Dev Rob the following year.
Yeah.
Which, albeit he was probably, I think that was one of the years where there were like 15 priority picks. So he was our first round pick at like 26 or something. 20,
yeah,
20.
We made that last minute swap with Port to get ahead so we could pick him. And then and it's just unlucky because he tore up the 2s on the weekend as well. But
I mean, he's even one that you'd say there's value there, and he played in the grand final.
Yeah, 100%. And
so it's like, if he played in the grand final, he's obviously worth trusting. It's just, as we've said, we've got all the injuries, but just none in his position. And then aside from, after that, you've got Darcy Wilmot, Lohman, and Morris, and Ashcroft and Fletcher.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty good return on. And the thing is, we haven't, aside from Ashcroft and McCluggage going back way when, we haven't really had like high picks. Rayner as well, but eating my words. But, since we finished high, we've done a lot with that kind of like 15 to 20 pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good job to them.
And it looks like, there's a lot of conjecture in what's going to happen with this year's draft and the point system, the father, sons and academies and all that sort of stuff. And that probably will affect us if it does come into effect this year. Fingers crossed it doesn't. But another Ashcroft, which is, all the talk is the better Ashcroft, similar to the Dacos, is like, how good's Josh Dacos? We'll wait till he sees younger brother. So there's that sort of, and then a couple of academy kids, this Marshall kid as well, that's meant to be a jet. So looks like another draft that we can hopefully score some goals with as well. And fingers crossed those guys, Steve Cannell and Dom Ambrosio, don't get poached by any other teams.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see if they do. I think I feel like you'd be remiss to say that they'd probably be in charge at the next premiership window, so it kind of doesn't really matter. They've done their job for the now.
Yeah.
So, a few things happening with the AFL. You mentioned the draft and them trying to basically at the behest of St Kilda and all their daughters, trying to change the draft rules 2-3 months out from it happening. And it's like, why? Someone said it pretty interestingly. They're like, the first expansion clubs like, Freo, West Coast, the Lions, Sydney. I know Sydney had the South Melbourne, but they've actually got their first generation of players that are now having father-sons, and you're going to change that when you've had, Victorian clubs benefit off of that for 160 years.
Yeah.
It seems insane, and it seems like a massive backlash from the Gold Coast Academy stuff. But it's like, isn't that good? Don't you want the Gold Coast Academy to be like doing well to make Gold Coast better who haven't played finals?
Yep, that's what a logical thinking average person would, but St Kilda are just dirty because they haven't had a decent father-son, and they're like, well, we want father-sons too. And they're like, well, it's not our fucking fault. And it's, just because you have a kid doesn't mean they're going to be good. Like, you think about the 2001 to 2003 team, and you get excited at the fact that, there's a little Michael Voss called Casey running around. How good's he going to be? I don't think
Not very.
Yeah, well, exactly. No one.
He's fine, but
no one knew that Ashcroft was going to have the jet. Like, it's just, if Robert Harvey had a son running around, they wouldn't be saying boo. If Stuart Lowe or, Nick Rewalt's, if he has a boy coming along at some point, they're not going to be pissing and moaning about it, but just because they've been unlucky. And I get it. Like, I do.
Yeah, but the thing is that they've got like that whole, the Frankston Sandringham area is like such a heavily drafted out of area anyway. And it's like, maybe have a better club culture that people want to go to. Maybe. Like, because, I went through it and there's no one else. There's no other club that's like not benefited from it. It's like, clearly it's not Collingwood. Clearly it's not Carlton with the Camporeale twins coming. Clearly it's not Geelong. It's not Hawthorn. Like, it's St Kilda. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, fucking idiots. Aside from that, we had our intelligence tested by Laura Kane with one of the most insufferable explanations of an umpiring decision I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, so you say play the whistle, but then not?
Honestly.
All right, okay, dude, like, have fun with that. You just need to maybe take some time off of screen time right at this point in time because you're making yourself look like an absolute muppet.
Yeah, look, and there's not much we can say that hasn't already been said in the last week and a half, but honestly, she just treated everyone like idiots, and she has copped it since. So, whatever. Like, whatever. If that's the hill you want to die on, if that's what you want people to walk away with and believe you're going to get away with it, good luck to you, because you're just going to get slammed by anyone that knows smallest bit of football. We're not
North Korea, and you're not Kim Jong-un or whatever his fucking name is. Like, we're not just going to eat your Kool-Aid, which you would traditionally drink. So there's that. We've also had last night Stephen May, possibly the least liked person in football, actually dig his head into the turf.
Yeah.
And cradle himself like the giant baby he is to win a free kick, which should have been holding the ball in a free kick, so North Melbourne stiffed. We saw it earlier on in the year where the other fella, low rent Joe Danaher, Jake Lever.
Oh, yeah.
Him do that with the Charlie Cameron one. We also saw that young dude do it in the same game, put his head into the turf. It's like, what is it, $1,875 fine?
Yeah. You pay that every day of the week if it means you're going to win a free kick and potentially win yourself a game of footy.
We thought off air some of the other punishments he could receive. I thought drawn and quartered, but that might be a bit much. We also thought a weird live broadcasted explanation/apology to Angus Brayshaw could be funny.
Yeah.
But Stephen May might have a bit of a difficult time stringing words together. So maybe that might not be in the off, but here we are. So, yeah, that needs to go, and that needs to be stamped hard, because that fine is, you would pay that to win a grand final doing that.
100% you would. 100% you would. Yeah, look, he's going to, like, he's already copped it so far. Like, he's a talk of, embarrassing, all that sort of stuff. So he's going to have to live with that, and the chat's still going to come. So, I mean, Stephen May's a fuckwit. We all know this at this point. Like, he's an absolute fuckwit, and it's just it just added that to the list of fuckwittery for him. So, good luck to you. He's playing shit footy without Jack Lever, but looks like Jack Lever will be back for Friday's game. So we'll see. We've already sort of forecasted changes, probably not too many. Will Ashcroft may come in. If he does, I'm inclined to think it'll be for Bruce, and Bruce will get moved to sub. Just arbitrary.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Maybe even Will start as the sub. Who knows? I doubt it.
Oh, like the caged beast he is.
Yeah. I doubt it, but that could be it. Quick look at the twos. We played Frankston. Good news for you, my friend, was we don't have to talk about JL because he didn't play. He was one of the travelling emergencies with Darcy Fort and one other, obviously. As I did mention before, Brandon Ryan had a good game. 4 goals, 6 marks. Harry Sharp was probably the pick for me. Played a little bit more forward as well. 3 goals, 22 touches. Some of his movement was really, really good. Couple of tackles as well. Obviously, Dev had a great game. 33 touches, 10 clearances. And Jimmy Tunstall got 10 clearances himself, so he played a little bit more mid-time as well. Beacon just keeps on keeping on. I mean, obviously his first game was a real standout, but he's been producing ever since. And Will McLaughlin, another 2 goals. So, the twos are looking really good. It was pretty close for the first half, and then the second half we just blew it away. Like, it was a couple of goals at halftime, and then quarters 3 and 4 we just put the foot down and ran away with it against Frankston. So they're on a bit of a charge themselves, working their way up the VFL ladder. So things are looking good. Things are looking good.
I think when I had a little look, that it was the first I'd read Beacon's name spelt the way that it was, and I was real tripped out because it is spelled friggin' weird. Like, I was expecting it to be like, traditional beacon of light rather than a bunch of E's and C's and K's. And so, who knows? But yes, a good result for the old twos. And we don't have to talk about say the elephant in the room, but the elephant in the paddock.
Yes. Now, a couple of questions for Crisp Communications, crispcomms.co. If you need any sort of marketing for your business, whether it's email marketing, digital marketing, you've got a podcast of your own. If you need some stickers, because they do make stickers, they've got some Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers, which you can get your hands on at our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com. Abby and the team at Crisp Communications will sort you the hell out and get your business soaring. One here from Nathan. It's a bit wordy, so bear with me for a sec. Obviously, there's still so much to play out this year, but we're still playing catch-up from our poor start. But if we continue to play the way we are and stay injury-free and find a way to get Charlie more involved, are we a stronger team than last season? Morris is such a better fit than Gunston. Lohmann has fitted in seamlessly. Bez is 1,000 times better playing on the inside. And the last couple of weeks, our key forwards look extremely dangerous. Hard to disagree with any of that. There is a lot of if this, staying injury-free for the remainder of the season would be nice, because I feel like we've had our fair share at the start of the year. We have had a good run over the last 5 years. So, I think the one thing we really do need to do is get Charlie a little bit more involved. If we can get him, consistently kicking 2 or 3 goals a week, and he kicked 2 on the weekend, so that's, you can't really sneeze at that. If we can get him kicking 2-3 goals a weekend to add with what's already going on, I mean, it's just being selfish at this point when our key forwards are doing so well, and Loman's kicking 2, and Bruce is kicking 2, and Bailey and Rain are all hitting the scoreboard. Yeah, maybe we are looking a bit better than last year.
It's an interesting thought, because I think if and when Ashcroft comes back and we know what the kind of team layout's going to be, I think we already know what it's going to be anyway, but I think it'd be worth almost doing a side by side with the grand final team, and just to sort of say okay, where have we improved with the changes, where have we dropped off with the changes? Off the top of my head, all I can really think about is maybe Link McCarthy is a miss for me. I think he's so consistent.
Yep.
But it's not like Kyle Lemon's been hasn't had the output. It's just an element of team firstness that might not be there yet. And like we talked about last week, because of the exuberance and the enthusiasm. But aside from that, it's what's Kadeem Coleman, obviously a miss. Brad Zorko's doing a pretty good job. And then you go, I agree. Logan Morris is a tick. You'd say from the grand final team, probably Payne is more than Gardner in terms of that position and what the adaptability of what he can do. I think Starcevich is in better form now.
Yep.
Wilmot is improving every week.
Yeah.
He is, and he's looking a bit more rugged and a bit more stronger bodied and stuff like that as well. Hopefully McKennan's going to play himself into a bit more form, and I think that happens. Zorko's obviously doing more than he did last year, but he's also making up for Kadeem Coleman, so that's kind of, that's a tick because it's got Zorko in the team.
Yep.
Which I think would be there anyway, but then it's kind of we answered a couple of weeks ago. It's is his season skewed by the stats of where he's playing? And it's yeah, but he'd be playing anyway, but where would he be playing? And that's always something that I've struggled with. So that's good. Harris is in good form. And the forward line is starting to fire now. So yeah, I agree that Charlie's the one, but
and maybe Bailey. You think back to that grand final, and obviously Bailey had the highlights.
But he wasn't in great form either. Him and Charlie Cameron weren't really in that great a form heading into finals. They were just sort of moments players. Charlie had the 2 goals against Port Adelaide back to back in the qualifying final, but he'd been quite quiet since this whole teeth thing.
Yeah.
And Zach Bailey he's been Flash's kind of frustrating figure for quite a long time now.
Yeah.
But I think the propensity to kick big goals in big moments, I think, is worth the trade-off because, we've said it before, if everyone plays as well as they could play, we win every game by 150 points because, Danaher's kicking 5 and Cameron's kicking 7 and Hipwood's kicking 5 and Rayner's kicking. It's it just doesn't happen. Yep. It's not possible. So, yeah, I think probably Kadeem Coleman's only the real miss in terms of quality, potentially. So that's it's an interesting interesting question that I would like to investigate more when we see how Ashcroft is going to figure in.
Yeah. It's like I'm a bit worried when it comes to that, just how it is going to affect the team balance and all that sort of stuff. Because you think about it, if Coleman's in, that's obviously great. Maybe it doesn't mean Zorko isn't playing every week, or maybe it means he is playing every week, and we've kept someone like Bruce out who doesn't get a look in, or Sharp or whoever's popped in and out of the team over the last weeks. One thing that you'll be happy about is that we've barely, like, as well as JL has been playing week in, week out in the twos, and he was the travelling emergency this week, he has barely been considered as even the sub. So I think that might be potentially over, and I think should we get an injury to the midfield, Dev would be the first call up for sure. He has to be.
I'd be more inclined to put Dev or Tunstall in.
Yeah. So, all things being equal, that it probably is the end for JL.
But then at the same time, when Ashcroft comes back, that's the sort of thing where you go, okay, well, if there's an injury to one in the midfield, then you have Ashcroft and Berry and, Dunkley, Neil, Ashcroft. I think there are ways around it, and people that are contributors in a different sort of a way. So, because Lyons is out of contract the end of this year, right?
I'd have to think so, yeah, surely.
I think he will probably just sort of fade into obscurity.
You never know, he might get go somewhere else, yeah. But yeah.
He's pretty old, isn't
he? Yeah. For a footballer, yeah, he'd be 32, 33, 34, somewhere around there. But
that's so old. I mean, I feel old, and that's the same age as me, so...
But, I mean, Zorko's 35 and still doing what he's doing, so...
Yeah, I know, but Zorko's... we've talked about this. We need Zorko to keep playing to make us feel better that there's a player older than us on the list.
Yeah, I was, reminiscing about that footy training yesterday. It's just like, it's really nice to see, Glenn Archer's kid running around and Scott West's kid running around, and, there's Ashcroft's, and then I was like... as a footy romantic, it's good to see those names on the field again, but then it's like, oh, God, I'm old.
Archer was really good.
Yeah.
He was really good. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. And, most footy fans would have, loved and respected Glenn Archer for what he did on the field as well. So it is really good to see those names running around, but yeah, at the same time makes you feel a little bit old at the same time. Another question here from Ken. If there was a mid-season trade period this year, what do you think we would have done? Now, it looks like that whole idea has been squashed, thankfully, because I hated that idea. And if you had asked me like 10 weeks ago when, Coleman was out and Caleb Daniel was not getting a game of the Bulldogs, I would have said, let's get Caleb Daniel. If he's not getting games of the Bulldogs and we need a creative halfback that can kick, let's go get him. But obviously the trade period didn't happen. Your face right now. And that's
the guy that he caused all of the problems for the Bulldogs with that sling on Max Gawn, and they went on that massive horror streak.
Sure,
that is not the mentality that we need.
No, but
the boot maybe.
Yeah,
but
that would have just been a gut reaction at the time when we didn't have someone obviously to fill Coleman's shoes. Now we do. Don't worry about it. But that's the sort of player I probably would have, I don't know, been looking at.
Yeah,
it's a tough one because we sort of, as we kind of
came
right now, we don't.
The storm almost.
Yeah, we don't have any immediate holes right now.
Like the only ones you kind of thinking of is like, I mean, Logan Morris came in. I'm like, Waterman had a pretty hot start, but you're not getting that for not much. Like that's just playing fantasy football at this point in time, and I don't particularly like that. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one because you can obviously go, oh yeah, I'll have Marcus Bontempelli please because it's a hypothetical situation, but I suppose you need, and that's why I thought the Caleb Daniel one was a little bit more realistic because he wasn't getting games, maybe even a Bailey Dale at that stage as well. So, but yeah, we've got no holes at the moment. Obviously, we've seen once we lose a key forward, like a Hipwood, and our next call-up is Brandon Ryan, that maybe we need a little bit more depth in quality key forwards there. And obviously, this whole Oscar Allen thing's been thrown around a little bit. That's just ridiculous, if you ask me. The man is captain of West Coast, grew up supporting West Coast, and now West Coast are playing good footy. Why the fuck would he leave to come well across the country?
That's but
you never know. But you never know. We have been singing the praises of the recruiting team, so maybe.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think like with more games going into Logan Morris, if one of Hipwood or Danaher was to go down, you'd probably look at like that other ruck dude coming in, not Fort, the other one.
Henry Smith, yeah. Another, and he, without Ford in the twos, another great game for Henry Smith. He is so close. Like, there's not much more that Henry Smith can do to get a senior call.
I remember then Big O gets bloody the chocolates.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. Like, it's just, I said what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So it's everything's singing. So mid-season draft, not a fucking clue.
Yeah, and thank God it looks like that whole thing is just going to go away, as much as Patrick Dangerfield wanted it, because, America does it, so, fuck you.
Well, speaking of insane people from Geelong, and I know he's not insane because we've been singing his praises throughout the year, but Chris Scott said the sort of, he's came out with the kind of thing that makes me wonder if he's all there this week, where he's like, we need to have a break in the middle of the season like they do in the European football in Germany and France. And I'm like, okay, dude, but you do realize that they have their break when it's snowing and over Christmas. Not like Christmas in July.
Yeah.
Plus also, did we not, I know he wasn't saying to extend the season, but if that is an idea, did we not pay attention to the fact that in opening round, although it wasn't in Melbourne, that weekend in Melbourne, it was 42 degrees and the grand final just played was 32.
Yeah.
So it's like, shut up. You're not doing yourself any favors here. If people are going to call Fagan senile, that's more insane and cooked.
Yeah, that was genuinely strange from Chris, and I think he's because he's got older players that need the break, perhaps.
But also, he played in Brisbane. He knows how hot it is up there. Like, what? Yeah. It's insane. So that was the sort of thing that I'm like, I think I'm taking Grandpa Fags.
Yes. Yeah, and hasn't he had the turnaround? And,
hasn't Chris Scott had the reverse turnaround?
Yeah. It must be said, as disrespectful and classless as I was prepared to be and wanted to be and was in this podcast, it was nice for Fags to show that genuine care for Kenny.
Yeah.
Because he's a good bloke.
I don't dislike Ken Hinkley, and there were some interesting things thrown up on the footy show of do the Port Adelaide people don't like Ken Hinkley because he's a Victorian? And it's like, that's probably not a bad shout.
Honestly, that's
but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with those guys over the next little bit, and I'll just be watching from afar with my popcorn, going, yes, yeah,
beautiful stuff.
All right, another game this weekend, this Friday night. It's going to come around quick, 6-day turnaround against the D's, who we've already played this year, and in the first half of our year, easily our best win down at the MCG. When Melbourne were playing good footy, we were not. So it was a 22-point win in the end, but it felt more like a 10-goal win with the way that it all panned out.
Yeah, just stop that game at three-quarter time when it was 12 goals to 3.
Yeah.
Cover that bit on the app. Just cover the fourth quarter. But
the chat after that game was how well we all, as a team, played Christian Petrarca. We had players go with him in the middle, and then when he worked out to the wing and stuff, we had Berry and Fletcher roll with him to cover him as well. So not something we have to consider this time around after he got absolutely brutalised, and I do feel bad for Christian Petrarca in that respect. I don't like Christian Petrarca. I think there's a healthy arrogance to him, but it does teeter on the edge of just straight up arrogance. But it sounds like he's gone through absolute hell with that whole spleen thing. So, looks like Jake Lever, if what I was reading last week is due to come back, but he was listed as 1 to 2 weeks last week, and it would he would be at the very earliest back for this game. So we'll wait and see when it comes to that. If he does come back after that knee, he'll be rusty. So we're not going to get the best Jack Lever, thankfully.
Would it be worth noting that if he does come back, it will all but assure that Harrison Petty will play forward?
Oh, yeah. And
with the opportunity to cross paths with Dane Zorko.
Lovely.
There's that.
Yeah. How good was that message? I woke up to a message from my mate Xavier on Sunday because I went to bed before the end of the North Melbourne game. I woke up to a message from my mate Xavier, who we always chat every time Brisbane-Melbourne rolls around. And he sent the screenshot of Noah Answorth getting stuck into Harrison Petty. He said, I hope you get stuck into this bloke on Friday night because he can't stand Harrison Petty either.
He's useless, yeah.
So
you see him I don't know if you saw the final moments of that game where he sort of lumbered towards the wing to put not pressure on. The siren goes and he celebrates like he's done anything in the whole game. It's just with his weird balding spot, you wouldn't trust him, would you?
And to think Melbourne knocked back 2 first-round picks for him.
That's almost levels of who were the 2 that they got in pick 1 and pick 2 back in the day that they didn't take Dustin Martin.
Oh yeah, Trengove and Scully, yeah.
That's on par with bad decisions. The 2 worst footballing decisions ever. Not taking 2 first rounders for Petty. I think that's worse than Trengove and Scully.
Or, yeah, I mean, potentially. It was luck because Harrison Petty had one good game where he kicked, 5 or 6 in the back end of last year against Richmond or something like that. And they're like, this guy's the answer. This guy is the answer to our forward problems. Turns out, no, he wasn't. But, that Turner dude's doing all right for them. He's playing good footy. Fritsch is down on output compared to what he has been. Van Rooyen...
He got kind of monstered by Archer, which is good.
Van Rooyen is sort of up and down, but I think our backline should be able to handle anything they throw at us. It's just, the middle, Viney and Oliver. Does Berry go to either of them? One of them, he's obviously done the job on Oliver before, and we saw Clayton Oliver... I mean, this season he's just been a shadow of himself regardless, but he got tagged heavily by Phillips and was basically anonymous the whole game. But Jack Viney's played good footy against us before. He seems to lift when he plays Brisbane, so I'd be more inclined to start with a Viney tag, especially after the way he played on the weekend. And then if Oliver gets off the chain, then just adjust accordingly.
Yeah, I'm me. I'm a small man sometimes. Petulant, some might say. I would send Berry to Oliver just on principle.
Yeah.
Just be like, remember me. I've derailed your career essentially. And depending on how the game goes, we might talk a bit about that next week. But just to sort of almost in a kind of Tom Hanks, Captain Phillips, be like, you see me, you tag me now. Let's do that. Because I think Dunkley probably more agile to kind of go head to head with Viney, I think, and then let Neil. But that said, they'll probably put Viney to Neil or something like that because Neil, if you don't tag him, what are you thinking?
Well, it was a bit weird on the weekend. I thought for sure Berry would go straight to Butters and wear him like a fucking
Glove.
something. Yeah. But
traditionally,
yeah,
glove.
It was sort of just Neil and Butters lined up and then just sort of went about doing their own thing, and then Berry ran with Butters once outside the stoppage. It was a bit strange in that respect. So,
well, they put time into McCluggage with Willem Drew.
Yeah,
and okay, cool. That's good. Flattering. McCluggage still kicked 2 goals. Sucked in. So, great. But, yeah, the Melbourne thing, it's sort of... I don't know, man. Big O, I tell you what, he can't really catch much of a break because he's played in the last 4 rounds, Tim English, Marshall, some guy, Sweet, I guess it was, and then Gawn.
Yeah. And to be fair, he towed up English. He
held his own against Marshall, I reckon.
I wouldn't say he won the contest, but he certainly, he evened it at the very least. Probably dropped a couple here and there. Obviously dominated Sweet, but yeah, Max Gawn is a different kettle of fish. He's a different style of ruckman, so we'll see.
it's just been I angry Big O. I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah, big time.
So I don't really know. I feel like Melbourne will be reacting far more to us than we should be to them.
Yeah, I'd say so. And their supporter base is all over the shop at the moment. They've got no faith in what Melbourne's putting out there on the park. Even though they escaped with the win on the weekend, they're dirty about. It's like, yeah, you beat North Melbourne. Well done. Like, this still feels like a loss.
You didn't kick a score in the last quarter.
Yeah. So it would be really good if we can put on another 100+ points and keep them relatively low. Like, our percentage is second best in the league now after the weekend, only behind Sydney, who's just astronomical in every facet of the game at the moment.
Do you reckon the hot tip for tonight on the couch is now that it's round 14 and the dust has settled?
Got the premiership window?
Gary Lyon will pull out the premiership window and we'll be right in there now.
I don't know. I haven't had a look at our for and against at the moment. Neither
have I. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely be closer. And to be really nitpicky, we still let through 76 points. I mean, yeah, we put on 150. We still let through 76 at the end, and
it was a bit annoying, wasn't it? Like, I didn't like them scoring goals. I don't like teams scoring goals at the best of times.
Yeah, and that is to be super nitpicky because it was obviously a dominant performance. But like,
you too are a small man.
Yes. When the commentators started talking about like, oh, we're on for a 100-point win here, and Brisbane's easily going to hit 150 on the scoreboard, I was like, can you not? Because you've just fucked us there, commentators. And we hit the 150, but didn't get the 3-figure margin, which was, once again, that'd just be selfish. But if I'm going to do it, it'd be against Port Adelaide. Yeah, big game at the Gabba Friday. I'll be there. You could be there too. If you are, say g'day. We'll have a beer. And yeah, go Lions. We're back. Are we back? We might be back.
I said we were back after that one random game, the Bulldogs one, because I was like, let's be relentlessly optimistic. It is funny though, within the whole within the Lions community, it is a funny paradox, because it's like the people that are like, I don't really care, like the season is what it is, are definitely the people that get more angry about when things go badly, as opposed to the people that are like, yeah, we're good, we'll be fine. Like, and yes, we get a bit grumpy from time to time, but
it's an emotional game.
It's more than a game.
That's another thing I did because I was just so full of disrespect, is I had a field day, scouring the Port Adelaide social media after the weekend as well, just to see the absolute explosion from the supporter base there.
Was it funny?
Oh yeah, worth a look when you get the chance.
I just kind of like the idea of like on the Footy show, Kane Corns being like really mad about it, but also in a funny way. These like, basically, I'm glad I was working and I couldn't go to the Premiership reunion.
Yeah. And to top it off, their twos got done by like 85 points as well. So it's just
in the Sandful.
Yeah. So they're just getting doubled.
Who did they play?
Norwood.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the supporter base is doubling down on that whole situation. So gaining happiness from other people's sadness is not exactly a good trait to have. But when it comes to Port Adelaide, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's all right. There's a little bit of healthiness in that sometimes, I think. Occasionally, you just can't get like high off the feeling and then maintain doing it, and then you have to reconsider your life at a stretch.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, no, I'll allow myself, because normally I'd like to think I'm quite pragmatic and reasonable, but this week I fully lent into fuck them.
Which is funny because as I've said countless times, I was at that grand final. To sit in the car for fucking 40 hours thinking I was going to die because I had a phobia of my dad falling asleep at the wheel, and he had like insomnia at the time. So it was very, very stressful. And I've told the story about the CDs.
That's right.
Forgot my CD case. So I had one CD to listen to on repeat. 40 hours. Songs for the Deaf. It's a banger, but still it's hard to listen to.
We'll be back next week. Don't forget, we've got a double pass to give away to Brisbane versus Sydney at the Gabba. I'll put up another post for that across our socials throughout the week. Give you the chance to win a double pass to what is, at this point, shaping up to be an absolute belter of a match. So you want to get your name in the hat for that one. Also, I'm going to shout out the RecLink Community Cup, which is actually where you and I met and how we forged our friendship and how this whole thing started. RecLink Community Cup is happening the 28th of July at Everton Wolves Junior Footy Fields, Mott Street in Enoggera. It is a great day out. Game of footy. It is musicians versus the media. I'll be playing in the media team. There's going to be live music on the day. Dogs, kids, families, all welcome. Beers. It's you can attest to this as well. It's a great day out, and a game of footy will be had. I'm not going to say it's going to be a good game of footy, but a game of footy will be had as well. So if you can make the way down there, tickets available on OzTix for that one.
How many goals have you kicked in RecLink games over the years? I know I gave you one with a 50-metre penalty that time when I yelled "Witherden" at you really loudly.
I do remember that. Somewhere between 7 and 10.
That's a lot of goals.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the fact there's maybe like 4 goals in the whole game.
Yeah, I think I remember the first one you kicked like 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was like the first time I'd played footy in 16 years or something. And I was like, man, this is weird. I was like, gangled creature. But yeah, I kicked 1.
It's good.
And I've given up 2 for 50-metre penalties.
It's a good ratio.
But also, that said, I think, and I've mentioned this before, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person to be tagged out of a game by a former NEFL player.
That's true.
Spitefully by your group of people. Because I was running super hot in that like training block. I remember in a practice game, like taking someone on, bouncing and kicking a goal from outside 50, and your coaching staff were like, "Oh fuck!" Not coaching staff, just the one guy that's in charge of like the team. It's like, "Oh fuck, Webber's going all right this year, isn't he?" It's like, yeah. So they put a NEFL guy on me, and it was really difficult because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Good for us, though. Good for us.
Bastards.
Yeah, it is on at the same time as the Q Clash, or it'll be just before the Q Clash, actually. So
that's fucking stupid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's down at the Gold Coast. So if you don't want to go to the Gold Coast and you want to go to the north side of Brisbane instead, you will have time to watch both. I will put that out there. You will have time to watch both. Yeah, it'll be a great day. Double pass, Brisbane, Sydney up for grabs. Go to the website, brisbanelionsfancast.com. Shout out to our sponsors, Hop On Brewery Tours and Crisp Communications. Podcasts all up on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You've listened to it so far, I guess, to this point, so you know what you're doing.
You know where to find it.
Yeah.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, do all the stuff. Rate and review the show. All this stuff I should be saying like each and every week, but never do.
We're the sort of one that's just like, we'll go until we say stop.
Yeah, and that's about as good as time as any. Stop.